want him out alive.
In your perspective, how do the roots of modern policing in the 19th century slave patrols still affect the culture of policing today?
I'm getting that question a lot because we're learning so much. We never saw these body cams of cops who are terrified murdering Black people. And I think it's important to remember that a lot of it comes from fear. And in the film, Shu Ibrahim talks about being driven by fear, growing up in Brownsville in the knuckle game where Mike Tyson and Riddick Bowe, these heavyweight champions, are from. You know, cops are carrying this same macho, dominant culture, and we can blame them and point the finger at them, but they're doing what our society asks them to do, which is keep Black people down, keep them in their place, keep them in their neighborhoods, and police them with violence, which is what America has always done. We have a little bit of a sickness, and a lot of cops will tell you that. They say it in the film. You know, we were an occupying army. They lament this fact, and they don't necessarily want to be part of that toxic legacy, which, to be honest, is also intensified by capitalism. You know, cops' job is to protect private property. So they're always going to be on the side of the rich, people with money and power, and poor people are just going to get abused by that system. So, you know, we don't necessarily say that you need to defund police, although down the road, if we can abolish the need for police in prisons, yeah, of course, everyone wants that. But if we can fund these alternative educational procedures, every cop in America who carries a gun deserves this training. And it doesn't just help cops on the street, it helps them at home. It would help all of us with our families, with raising our kids. I use Harvey's hostage negotiation techniques with my little sons when they were freaking out. It's great stuff for all of us to learn.
So I want to go to one of your earlier films. Given your study of Lee Atwater, one of the original misinformers in the Republican Party, who was rumored to repent on his deathbed, will lies continue to handcuff progress in the name of power, and how can it be reasonably fought today?
I love that question. You know, a lot of my work is about culture clash and not understanding. And I think one thing that fuels that, I always say on the left and among progressives, is what Harvey taught. Let people know you're listening and that you hear their voice, and, you know, use active listening skills and create a dialogue and a conversation. Because when people don't feel heard on all sides, it fuels this disinformation campaigns where working people are voting for a billionaire named Trump and supporting policies that are actively harming them and harming their families. We can't afford to be tone deaf. We need to have these American conversations that aren't happening. And I made Boogeyman 13 years ago, and I still believe that the Democratic Party does not understand what's happening, why they're going to lose Congress, because they don't understand the principles of clear communication. That actually Lee Atwater really understood that.
Interesting. Final question. One of the more eternal truths that resonated in the film was that violence is a weakness. Yet we still live in a world in which firepower and armaments are still thought of as ultimate deterrents. How, in your perspective, can we shift to a world dominated more by the attitudes of Harvey Schlossberg rather than the militarized police forces and the weakness of violence?
I love that question. And in many ways, it's just common sense. Anyone who has children knows that if you seek to dominate them, you're teaching them domination and resistance, and that becomes the way that they'll interact with you. Kids resent that stuff, and they start resisting, and they're going to win every time. And military tacticians will tell us consent of the governed is the ultimate force multiplier. Work with people, create a dialogue. Cops out there on the street cracking heads are just creating resentment in the community. Every cop will tell you that. Don't roll in there in, camo gear and militarized vehicles. That is intensifying the solution and creating more violence. So the other thing is people are making a lot of money off policing and off armaments and arms sales. Look who's getting rich off this war in Ukraine. It's Halliburton and Raytheon and all these the same people that got rich off the war in Iraq. And again, what did we achieve in 20 years of spending billions of dollars. They say it's enough money that we could have converted our entire grid in America to renewable energy. We're over there trying to fight for oil and we have nothing to show for it. But another generation of trauma among American soldiers and an increased violence. Because when you're traumatized, you repeat the same behavior. In many ways, I think America's traumatized by slavery and by our history. And we often just repeat it instead of asking the kind of question you just asked, how we can do something new. So I urge everyone to go to holdyourfirefilm.com to share this trailer and get the message out there that there really is another way to do things.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2022.